This is my multimedia essay about Neil Postman and his book, Amusing Ourselves to Death. Postman and his problems with TV. An overview of Postman's argument. One of Postman's first arguments is the loss of context. Through the telegraph, when the telegraph was invented, news could quickly spread and stories could be shared, reported, and without many people actually having to see the event that occurred. Evolution of media continued. Media first changed with the telegraph, continuing with photography and culminating with the television. Communication changed to be more visual and, more importantly, without context. A quote from Postman: "A picture is a slice of time and space and may be an aberration rather than the norm. Television turned this into an art form where disjoint images appear for no more than about 3 seconds on average." This statement by Postman describes how he felt mostly about news and how quickly topics were discussed and then forgotten. My argument against Postman. I disagree with Postman. I really thought the invention of TV is really important in today's society in receiving news. I think that the invention of television has created a whole new way for society to process the information that we are inundated with on a daily basis. Time equals money. In today's current society, I don't think it's feasible to ask people to read and comprehend an entire newspaper. Television and other forms of mass communication, such as Facebook, Twitter, and blogging sites, allow people to know what is happening in the world seconds after events occur, instead of waiting for a newspaper to be printed and distributed the following day. This is really important for topics such as political elections and debates. Many people have turned to think of news as a form of entertainment, perhaps because it reaches a whole spectrum of interests to please the audience. The news is able to cover many stories to reach a broad audience because they make money by all of the advertisements and commercials allowed in between the segments. It makes the news not only really entertaining, but it's also a very lucrative business, which allows the news to have more money to spend in more locations around the world to create different opinions and stories. This is just a short clip of the Today Show and how they start off with an overview of all the topics they'll be covering.
Good morning. Disorder in the court. Judge Judy and the rest of Southern California shaken by the region's biggest earthquake in nearly 15 years. So is it a sign that a big one could be coming soon? A picture of grief. New photos emerged showing the mother of that missing toddler out partying. And the photographer says they were taken just days after her daughter vanished. And Maine men, you and millions of others have enjoyed watching the reunion between a lion in the wild and the guys who raised him when he was a cub. So where are those lion lovers now? We've tracked them down and they'll join us for an exclusive live interview today, Wednesday, July 30th, 2008.
That clip was just an example of how little time was necessary to quickly inform viewers of the world's current news. That news in particular isn't very important, I would say, to day-to-day lives, but it is interesting for people. So that is a good example of how the news might be a form of entertainment. Not each story will be told in complete detail, however, on the Today Show, and other news programs as well do not tell complete detailed stories. However, it allows the viewer to find what he or she finds important, and then they can further seek out that information. My second argument is just newspapers and reading and other forms of news are just simply outdated compared to today's media and mass communication websites. Most of the readers on here that would get a newspaper per day are 65 and older, and my generation, which would be the 18 through 24-year-olds, would rarely ever read a newspaper. And this just goes over the last slide, and the newspaper is a thing of the past, with 65 years plus reading it daily, and only 6% of my generation reads the newspaper daily. The idea of newspapers and reading in general have become somewhat a thing of the past. However, a new age of entertainment has begun, and with that being said, media has a strength all of its own. One argument is that TV, especially TV shows, have become so in-depth that older generations simply could not understand the plot lines. Having TV that is so in-depth and complicated can actually create higher emotional IQs in people. Where reading most likely improved vocabulary and memory retention, TV is creating an overall more well-rounded person and informs individuals on topics they might never be exposed to. So overall, from the beginning of print and books to the invention of television, and now we have a society that's driven by mass media. It just goes to show it is more pure evolution in technology and entertainment. I think this is where I really disagree with Postman, and it's not saying that the smart and the dumb watch TV and the smart read. It's more saying, or the rich and the poor. I think it's just saying that there's an evolution to this, and that if people like to stay with our time and the pace of our lives, that it's just more feasible to watch TV and catch news on a smartphone or online rather than sitting down and reading a newspaper. It's just more relevant in this day and age.